are still watching This Morning on ITV. It's time now to look at a discussion segment where the Director of Public Relations of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, DCC Olushola Odumosu, will be, of course, discussing on how the agency is actually out to protect critical infrastructure, despite the various security challenges we have all around, from terrorism to kidnapping to banditry. Of course, we have oil theft. The list is endless. Very good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
Yeah. So somehow we know that the NSCDC is doing quite a lot when it comes to protection of critical infrastructure. We've seen times where criminals were arrested, those that vandalize electric installation, oil installation, and the likes. But it appears that, the Corps has soft pedal in that, fight against theft of public infrastructure.
Well, once again, I'll say good morning to you. And I will start by correcting that notion that NSCDC has soft pedal. If we were talking about NSCDC maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, well, maybe to an extent I could say, all right, maybe you're close, but right now the situation is very, very different. And if you have been following us very closely, following our activities, you realize that we now have a brand new Commandant General, a firebrand man, a man who is a round peg in a round hole, who came with a renewed vigor to rejig, revamp, resuscitate, reposition, restructure the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. Dr. Ahmed Abubakar Haudi, MNI, is the third substantive Commandant General of NSCDC, having been appointed by Mr. President and decorated on the 1st of March 2021. And immediately after his appointment, he hit the ground running. There's a difference between somebody who came prepared for the job and someone who is an opportunist. Now, the difference is so clear. Ahmed Abubakar Haudi is highly experienced, is an astute scholar, is very well read, and he has been in the system in the last 25 years, having passed through the crucibles. So, coming on board as a Commandant General, he has understudied the terrain and he has seen vividly the areas of mandate of NSCDC that needs to be tackled head on. And this, immediately he was decorated, he hit the ground running, and he has restructured virtually every segment of the Corps. Then coming to the protection of critical infrastructure and national assets of government, efforts have been redoubled. Personnel have been re-energized, they have been re-motivated, and everybody, especially those in the anti-vandal squad, they are given a very good account of themselves. Only recently we went to River State. The Commandant General was in River State, having made a landmark, achievement in terms of arrest of vandals. About 40 nefarious individuals were arrested, towards the tail end of last year, and we were there. There were miscreants, there were hoodlums, there were saboteurs, there were those who will not allow the critical national assets of government to stay in peace. And this happens to be the major mandate of NSCDC. We are the lead agency in the protection of critical infrastructure and national assets of government. And this, the Commandant General has told each and every one, especially the state commandants in all the formations, that efforts must be redoubled. In fact, he gave them a marching order that your achievements will determine your continuous stay as the head of any formation. So everybody is on their toes to make sure that critical infrastructure and national assets are fully protected. And I must tell you, because of the fact that, Nigerians don't really understand, especially those ones who go into willful destruction of government property, they really do not understand that this is our collective wealth. And of course, when we begin to subject this infrastructure of government to damages, to willful and wanton destruction, of course you are equally affecting your life negatively, because whatever resources and fund government will need to provide additional infrastructure to make life better for Nigerians, you have of course destroyed it. So rather than government moving forward, you have taken the government backward, because one, instead of providing additional infrastructure, they have to look at channeling the resources back into repairs.
Yeah, at my preamble, I talked about the fact that even oil installation in the Niger Delta, the NSCDC has the responsibility of actually ensuring that installation are, not tampered with.
And this we're doing very well.
Yeah, that's what you think. But if
that's what I know. I'm in the system. I'm part of the system. I know what we do. I know our mandates.
At times, that miscreants still find their way, sabotaging this installation and stealing some of our common patrimony. And that is why before now we saw every week the defense headquarters usually brief, and when they brief, they tell us those that have been apprehended by their men, on the ground. And the question is, if the military is apprehending those stealing crude oil, is apprehending those, refining illegally, is apprehending those, stealing, some of this installation, what is the job of the NSCDC?
I said something much earlier. I said, if you've actually been following us, you will have understood that those insinuations are not correct. And I stand to be corrected, because I have my facts, I have my figures, and I know the exploit NSCDC is making. As a lead agency in the protection of critical national assets, we have given a very good account of ourselves. I'm sure your man who has been following us, who covers NSCDC, will be able to let you in on some of the achievements, within the last 6 months or 9 months thereabout of the new Commanding General. I told you, we've made a number of arrests and a number of prosecution. A lot of these vandals have been apprehended. In almost every state of the Federation, we have our presence. And that is one of the unique advantage of NSCDC. And you said that, okay, the army, the other services...
It appears they are sopping your...
No, they're not. They're not. You see, one thing we need to get clear is the fact that every security agencies of government have their clear-cut mandates. In NSCDC, for instance, our major mandate is the protection of critical national asset and infrastructure, which I told you about. And aside from that, we are also into crisis management, disaster mitigation, and the rest of them. So in case of any emergency, flood, accidents and all of that, we respond. Yeah, and our response time is unrivaled, is unequaled, is very swift. And that is why you see some of our ambulances in different strategic locations within the FCT, for instance, where we are, and the same thing is being replicated all over the federations. We are also into regulation, monitoring, supervision, and licensing of the private gas industry. These are our mandates. That's not to talk about some of the other ad hoc assignments of NSCDC, like the agro rangers, for instance, which is created to take care of agro-allied investments of both government and private investors. We're also into protection of farmers, of farmlands. And knowing fully well that government is going through a process of diversifying the economy from an oil-based economy to an agro-economy. So the need for food security, for food sustenance and all of that is very germane, to the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. And NSCDC has been empowered to ensure that farmers, in those days you seems to be overtaken by fears. Especially those of our farmers who are in remote villages who put food on our table. Many of them are always apprehensive, of going to their farms because of the fear of the unknown. You never know what can happen to you. Quite a number of farmers have gone to farm and they love it and they don't return. Back in the days, but when Ahmed Abubakar came, he ensured that every area where there are identified gaps, he was able to close the gap. He was able to empower personnel. He was able to, to equip almost every department, giving out operational vehicles, equipments, those we can say on air and those we cannot say on air, for ease of operation. And I don't think anybody who's been following us lately will sit and say that NSCD has not been working. The dynamics have changed. The story has changed. The narrative has changed.
What Nigerians would want to see or hear is that NSCDC has prosecuted certain number of persons that were caught, stealing this or taking this or breaking this and all of that. So within the last 6 months, how many persons has the agency prosecuted?
Well, I can tell you authoritatively that within the last 6 months, a number of arrests has been made. About 393 persons, who have been caught in different, degree of offences. Vandalism of critical national assets is not only limited to oil. We have a number of critical assets that has direct bearing with the lives and the living and the standard of living of individuals and Nigerians as a whole. So when we're talking about critical national assets, while looking at oil and other oil installations, we also have the communication equipment. We have the electrical installations, we have the roads, we have the railways, and of course you remember that recently, or in recent time, attention suddenly shifted to the vandalism of railway sleepers. And in the axes of Nasarawa, Kaduna, and the rest of them. And a number of people have been arrested. And I just told you, one of the 390 in different
stealing, railway sleepers, like you said.
No, we have, like in Nasarawa and Kaduna axis alone, we have arrested over 52 vandals. And because we also have the power to prosecute.
52?
Yes, over. And most of them, once you're arrested, we don't keep you. Once you're arrested, you're subjected to investigation and you're taken to court immediately. And in the course of that, the adjudication of law and all of that, rests in the judiciary.
Yeah, but how come your men are not seen in the courts? If of course, now that we are back from this break, we are going to be seeing, EFCC with their, jackets in court. We are going to be seeing NDLEA in court. We are going to be seeing police in court. We are going to be seeing customs in court. How come?
I tell you something. Let me continue.
People in court prosecuting offenders.
I'll tell you something. You see, it would be wrong to start, comparing agencies. I have my reasons for saying that. Like I told you earlier, we'll have a clear-cut mandate. And don't forget also that, in the process of ensuring national security, every agencies of government are expected to work in synergy. We have been working collaboratively with the military. We have been working collaboratively with the Navy. With virtually every security agencies, we have joint operations that we do. We have joint task force and the rest of that. Now, coming back to your question, like we've not been seeing NSCDC in court. Yes. Like I told you, everybody has their mandates and their modus operandi of operations. Now, you, as a person, I need to educate you that the civil defense has different departments, different units, different sections. Now, in terms of prosecution, you're not likely to see civil defenders in court because we have our legal unit who takes care of that. So you would expect me, for instance, as the Director of Public Relations, to see me in court doing what?
No,
I am not except of course I've been invited. That's what I'm saying. People from the legal department of NSCDC, they come to court in their Ghana, and that's it. So if you're waiting to see an NSCDC officer to stand, in the box for trial and maybe whatever, you may be wrong. You may wait endlessly and you won't see. But that is not to say that we're not working. If you happen to go to court, oftentimes you will see cases. Go and make your inquiries. Go and make your findings. How many numbers of vandals, offenders, and criminals has NSCDC prosecuted in the last 6 months? You get your records. You see our men, but you won't see the men in uniform. You only see our legal team who will come into the court in their regalia, their wigs, and all of that to do that which is assigned to them. So maybe you are expecting to see a whole number of garments of NSCDC officers. No, you won't see. But that is not to say we're not working.
Yeah, well, I quite
you know what I'm saying. So you need to follow us very, very closely, because I'm shocked. We're sounding this way.
Yeah, even these other agencies. I know you're shocked, but even these other agencies, their men come to court with, of course you cannot address the judge, wearing uniform. If you are in the legal department, you must robe and put on your wig and then address the court, but even when that happens...
So are you expecting to visit the court premises?
While that happens, you see these other men, bringing culprits to court. That's the point I'm trying to make. But let's leave that.
Well, I was going to tell you that, I think I'm here to talk about the mandates of the court. I'm not here to start comparing the activities of NSCDC with other agencies of government. I won't speak for any agencies. If you are the advocates, I don't know, but right now I am here to speak for NSCDC, and I know that our mandate is very clear. We have defended our mandates to the best of our ability, and it's an ongoing thing. We can never stop working. We can never disappoint Nigerians.
So
NSCDC, we are on top of our game.
In the course of carrying out your mandate, what is your major challenge?
Well, you said something much earlier that despite the fact that we're working, you still see vandals, you still see this. I need to put something clear and straight to you. Even in the very most advanced countries, I don't know if you have seen any country where criminality has been eliminated completely. You can never see. Even in the most advanced countries of the world, the America, the Russia, the France, the Britain, and all of that. When you look at their environment very closely, with all their technological advancement and know-how, they still have their own fair share, of crime. And so you don't expect NSCDC to start, doing magic. We are lucky to have a Commandant General who knows his onions and who understands the terrain very perfectly, who is well experienced and has been groomed over the time. And apparently he has worked and is still working very tirelessly to ensure that NSCDC is able to justify the purpose of its creation. And like every other agencies within the country, the geographical space you find yourself, you usually have challenges, and it is not that those challenges are enough to stop you from working. Apparently no. No matter how much you're getting, or the kind of support you're getting from government, you still expect to do more. You still expect more, because I tell you something, crime and insecurity and everything that has to do with security of lives and people, especially for those who are on the other side of the divide, crime is very dynamic. You and I are here, we're talking. Some people somewhere are
plotting,
how to go on the next operation as we speak. And apparently, that for us as a security agency of government, to really achieve success, you have to be ahead of the criminals, because you know that most of those criminals too, they have their sponsors, they have their equipment. Like when our men go to the creek, for instance, to arrest vandals, they are often confronted with superior firepower from these other people. And apparently, what does that suggest to you? That there is need for more support from government for us to also advance our cause in terms of operational equipments, ammunitions, and the rest of them. So those are the usual challenges that you get, but there are surmountable challenges that I don't even think can even stop us from
let me
getting
take
to our
this
destination.
one before I move to other issues. Is there any plan by, of course, the agency to invest in technology?
Well, I wouldn't say there is a plan for us to invest in technology.
Because like you said, this issue is dynamic.
Yeah.
And so
I'm coming to answer the question.
To actually meet up with that.
Yeah, that's why I said that I wouldn't say that or address your question by answering, oh, there is a plan to invest. Already, a lot of investment has gone into in technological development, technological growth and advancement of the core. Only recently, the Commandant General launched what is called IES, Integrated Electronic Arrest Reporting System, IES. And it's a system that is developed and in every formation of NSCDC, anywhere across the country, once you are logged in to our Integrated Electronic Arrest Reporting System, at the tip of a button, information gets to the national headquarters and it is being processed. So emergency situation, situations of vandalism and all of that, so long as you are able to connect, you are on. So we've done this in such a way that we can be able to get to the grassroots, because like I told you, crime is dynamic, and people every day, you don't wait for issues to rise before you now begin to run helter-skelter to see how you're going to assert the situation. We, on our part, we're always proactive.
We are proactive,
and
yes.
that is not the only technological plan for the core. A lot is ongoing, and you need to come to national headquarters of NSCDC to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we have been seeing some brand new hardwares and brand new vehicles.
I'm happy you.
It appears.
I'm happy you.
But
You have said something good.
The ones that are obvious, we must say it. Okay, now you talked about the fact that the agency is responsible for licensing of private security. How far has that gone?
Well, if we look at the system, of governance and security and all of that, and law enforcement, you will understand that Nigeria is a country of over 200 million people, and when you aggregate the number of security agencies in the country, both the military and the paramilitary agencies, you will understand that it is still not enough, to police the country effectively. And what that means is that there will be need for to co-opt other private outfits who, of course, have undergone the necessary training, and with the experience that have been gathered over the years, to also assist in the security operations. Don't forget that one of the things that drive successful security operations is intelligence. So the private security agencies, they assist other agencies of government in information and intelligence gathering. We are, the agency that is responsible, to regulate their activities, to license them through the office of the Minister of Interior, and since the administration of Dr. Ahmed Abubakar Hawdi, I think over 94 licenses have been given. About 35 licenses have been revoked, and about 28 has also been renewed.
35, why were they revoked?
Revoked because, before we came on board, the private gas industry is so is in such a state where every Adamu and Garba,
so much polarized.
Yes. Before now, you see someone with just, maybe just one shop somewhere at one street corner with guards wanted and all that. And we see we have to be very careful how we talk with issues of security. The issues of security is a very sensitive one. And if we actually want to be on the right path, we cannot afford to compromise. So NSCDC has sanitized that industry so well that if you're not qualified, if you don't have any business,
you won't be there.
In business, you cannot be there. So, and the process is so cumbersome. I use that word because you can't find it easy getting a license to operate a security company, because security is not everybody's, it's not a piece of cake where you can just come and have your own bite and you move. No, it has to be properly regulated, and that is what we're doing. The process of regulation is such that those who are applying, they are made to undergo a lot of, background checks, assessment, and we're not doing that alone. That's why I said earlier that the work of security is such that it's interdependent. We depend on each other. Every agencies of government, even though you have your clear-cut mandate, but we still depend on each other for one or two things. Like vetting for instance, of private gas operators is done by DSS. We work together. So when we apply to get a license, whatever form and every other thing that you need to go through after that is being done, your file is pushed to the DSS. We conduct a very thorough background check on whoever is applying, for that license. And if you are found wanting in any way, you cannot get the license.
So that means the 35 licenses that you revoke, it means that
they violated. No, that. What I mean by revoking is that sometimes every license you get is renewable annually. Now there are some extant rules that you're supposed to follow. So once you deviate from the laid down rules that you're to follow, for instance, then you don't have business in the security. Because see, before you because you cannot say that you want to compromise in any way, because once you are licensed, there are a number of corporate organizations who have engaged the services of private gas company. There are private individuals that engages the service of private gas companies. So if they are not properly vetted, it means that we are subjecting Nigerians to risk. And that is why we don't take the situation lightly. Whatever it is that is required of you to present. For instance, no foreigner is allowed, for instance, to own a private gas in Nigeria. And there are some people that comes on board and say, okay, in our board we have this foreigner who is a chairman of it. No. In fact, your application is dead on arrival. It doesn't work.
Okay, now we also understand that for those who want to legally own firearms, the process of how they get they are trained on how to handle firearm before they, of course, are given the license to own one. How is that going?
I don't understand. Are you talking about the private guys or
individuals that want to own, firearms legally, And before you own the firearm, you must be taken to a range where you are taught the skills of how to handle it. Otherwise, you may end up, it may backfire. So, but we understand that civil defense is in charge of that. So, how is that going?
Well, your understanding of so many things about civil defense is questionable.
Let's get to use.
Let me just put the record straight.
Teach me how to use.
Well, let me set the record straight in case you don't know. It doesn't fall within our mandate, to issue firearms license to
Training. Firearms training.
It doesn't fall within our mandate to give firearms training to individuals. Are you getting my point? Yeah, maybe other agencies of government who are listening to this interview, they will, whoever has that, they know, purview to do so. But for us in NSCDC, we have invested heavily in training and manpower development of our personnel. As a matter of fact, even the private guards companies, they don't bear firearms. I get to my point. So the kind of training they are exposed to, because like I told you, we monitor, we regulate, we license them, and the training is only limited to paramilitary regimental training, but not firearms training. Anything firearms training is for NSCDC personnel who are in the armed squad, who are in the general duty cadre, and those who are in the front line of operations, to vandals, to fight insurgency northeast, and the people in the Rangers, those in operations, and the rest of them. Firearms training, firearms license doesn't fall within the purview of NSCDC. Let me correct that.
That is taken. We ask this question and we something corrected.
Yeah, no problem.
So let us look at the female squad set up to tackle kidnapping.
What do you want to know about female squad? Well, Dr. Ahmed Abubakar, upon assumption of office, was tasked by the Honorable Minister of Interior, General Arebeshola, to come up with a arrest this menace of kidnapping of our school children. The minister is a lover of children, when you look at the terrain, it was becoming too one case too many, it has got into a situation where parents no longer have confidence, in sending their children to school. Even the students themselves no longer feel safe. The principals and the teachers and the non-teaching staff are always apprehensive because you never can tell what can happen in the next moment.
The thing with civil defense now is the fact that we definitely must have a system whereby even as they collaborate with other agencies, security agencies, we should be able to have a system whereby the result is evident. And then, I don't want to take us back to the court, but yeah, if we have a squad saddled with the responsibility of tackling kidnapping, to what extent has that helped?
Now, since the female squad, was established, set up, trained at the NSCDC Academy, in Katsina, and commissioned by the Honorable Minister himself. Since then, they have moved, into action, and the process, the establishment of the female squad is also replicated in all formations of NSCDC across Nigeria. Now, in FCT alone, the female squad have been able to counter and prevent a number of kidnap cases that could have happened. But most of these things, if you're sitting in your studio inside your AC, you will not know all these things are happening. But we have been able to repel a number of attacks on our schools in FCT. In the FCT alone, the female squads have engaged more than 100 schools within FCT in terms of education, enlightenment, and sensitization. They have gone about combing all schools within FCT, and this is being done across the 36 states and FCT. Are you getting my point? Because the truth is that before the Commandant General went about establishing this, there is something he did. He conducted a vulnerability survey of schools
in Nigeria. And we discovered that, of the schools within the country, over 61,000 schools are porous. Porous in terms of no security presence, no fencing, and all of that. These are situations that could, easily, lead to, situations of, insecurity and apprehension. So NSCDC,
from what you're saying,
they have done so well. They have repelled a lot of attack. We have sensitized. In fact, we're working in synergy with even the traditional institutions just to ensure that information.
From what you are saying now, even our viewers will agree that to an extent, civil defense is doing quite a lot. But the issue is that the press releases are nowhere.
I don't agree with you.
The briefings are not regular.
No, it's not true.
So if we have a regular briefing, we have press releases coming out on a regular interval.
You need to.
These issues will put civil defense in the front burner and people, give them a call.
Maybe ITV needs to do more for NSCDC. Maybe that's what we should be talking about, because our reports are everywhere. Even the arrest, the parade of vandals that Commandant General did in River State was everywhere.
No, we saw that one.
Is everywhere.
No, we saw that.
The arrest of railway sleepers is everywhere.
So what are we talking about?
The licenses of private gas company is everywhere. Our activities in the north, insurgents is everywhere.
The spokesman.
So why you
spokesman for the
I don't agree with you.
Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps? You should understand why he just have to continue, of course, in that mode. Yeah, we just have to.
We have to say the way it is, actually. We're not window dressing in this case.
No, I agree.
Exactly the way it is.
And that is why what I
also Nigerians agree, because those of them that are following us, they know.
That is why what I saw. I said to you,
what Dr. Aldi has achieved in 6 months, there are some chief executives that will not achieve that in 2-3 years.
You don't say.
I tell you that. Yes, within 6 months. Go back in history and check our activities. Just go after this interview, try and find out about NSCDC. Try and find out about the exploit of Dr. Ahmed Abubakar Hawdi within this short period of time. And I'm sure you come back and say, sorry, guy.
DCC Olusola Odumosu is the Director, Public Relations. You understand now. Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, of course, here in Abuja, the national headquarters, and we'll be looking at protection of critical infrastructure and the duties of Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. Thank you so much for your time with us. You've spoken
so much
eloquently
for having me and drilling me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it shall be time for other discussions.